So did Kevin.
That's what buyers goes, I'm surprised you're here. It's like, well,
right.
I'm making myself be here.
Let's rock and roll. Good morning, all. I'd like to call this meeting of the June 11th, 2019 Tippecanoe County Council to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as usual, let's start with the auditor's report.
We began 2019 with a general fund cash balance of $10,224,887.37, with projected miscellaneous revenue and property tax, and with the circuit breakers deducted, our total available $58,639,082.37. We deduct the encumbrances, the budget, and the minimum balance, and then add in our estimated unused 2019 budget. Our beginning net balance was $1,876,533.37. Additional appropriations of $97,543 have been granted for the general fund so far this year. We have $23,000 request for this meeting, and with the reductions approved in February, our available balance going into this meeting is $1,787,447.37. We get into the next page, the revenue report. We have not distributed the spring property taxes yet, so the 0100 property taxes, that still shows zero for the year. The lit is higher than what we're 41.7% through the year. There was a special distribution, supplemental distribution that I'll maybe mention. I put that under new business, so we did get some extra money there. We got the semi-annual distribution of commercial vehicle excise tax, and that I believe is semis that with multi-county state plates that is distributed by the state. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention is the recorder. Shannon had mentioned to me earlier, and I had kind of noticed that sales recordings are down historically low, so we are a little bit lower there than what we would anticipate at 34% when we're 5/12ths of the way through the year. So it's not a concern. There's nothing we can do about it, but properties are selling like hotcakes, the ones that are available. We don't have as many sales coming through maybe as what we had in the past. That's all I have on the revenue. Getting into the fund balances. The general fund, it does have a negative $1.1 million balance now. Again, the property tax, that's going to be throwing in over $10 million here shortly. So that's not really a concern. That is a little lower than what we had at this time last year. The next fund I wanted to mention was 4710, which is the county health insurance, which I'll mention that. And again, we did have a good month where we had about $250,000 more in revenue than what we paid out. So we have gone over the $7.5 million balance mark there. And of course, we also have the $3 million in the rainy day. That's one fund above that. Just again, the 4818 is the construction. That is the fairgrounds construction. That's where the bond proceeds went. And as we are paying for different parts of that, then that balance comes down. So we do have $16 million yet there. I believe that was the last fund that I had to mention. So if there's any questions.
So are we basically where you would expect us to be with respect to the revenue for the year?
Yeah, I think everything is going about where it should be. We do usually underestimate the revenue a little bit, so if it does come down a little bit lower than what we really think it's going to be, we're going to be okay. So I feel okay with the revenue, and I feel okay with the budget too, that I'm not going to have massive amounts of additional appropriations at the end of the year too. So.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, treasurer's report.
Good morning. For the month of May, we had interest earned of $345,802.14. Nearly every investment agency and investment that we had interest contributed this month, and this typically is one of our higher months of interest. We are getting ready to turn over settlement probably yet today to the auditor's office, so by the end of this month, some of those significant balances will have gone down in the bank accounts, and obviously our fund balances, though, will reflect the property tax distributions. As far as the next sheet, the trends between bank interest and investment interest are pretty much holding steady. I am sitting at only 10% of our portfolio in a 2 to 5 year range, so pretty much everything that we have out there is either at the bank getting the overnight rate or is in an under 2-year investment vehicle, just because that's where the rates have been the best right now. I hope that doesn't change, but the feds have talked about in the past few weeks a possible 0.25% decrease in the rate, which wasn't really expected. So I hope that doesn't happen. That would impact our budgeted revenue for interest. And so far, I've just told the different departments to budget the same interest for this year for 2020, and I'll keep a closer eye on that and see where we're at right before budget hearings. Distribution, nothing new to add there, other than I know Kathy has mentioned a couple of times perhaps transferring interest from some of the funds to the general fund or diverting it to the general fund, such as the health insurance. So maybe that's something we would look at, and I can take a closer look at the expected cash flow of those funds for budget hearings as well. So unless there are any questions, that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on items on today's agenda? Seeing none, I'd like to introduce Jody Hamilton, Vice President for Economic and Workforce Development at Greater Lafayette Commerce.
Good morning.
Good morning,
How is everybody
Jody.
this morning? Thanks for having me today. Really, I'm in front of you today because we have a long list of compliances for tax abatement, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of talk about those and kind of what those look like. And then I know there's some company representatives here today, so as you go through them, I'll sit down and so that they can come up and talk with you as well. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for your support, because being able to provide a tool like a tax abatement is extremely important when it comes to business attraction and expansion. So obviously in this global market, these companies can make these investments anywhere in the world. When it comes to attraction, we're always competing with states and other communities, and having a tool like this is instrumental to be able to attract those and provide those incentives to come to our community. On the expansion side, the companies that are here that are expanding, they as well can make investments anywhere else. A lot of them have facilities in other locations, so we work with them when they're trying to compete for a new product line or expansion of their building to be able to add a line or whatever it may be. So having this tool allows us to be competitive against other communities, but also allows to provide incentives to the company so that they can have some savings and pass on to their customers so that they can also compete in the global market. So thank you. You guys play a huge role in this economy, especially in the Greater Lafayette area, growing, and a lot of that is because of the tools that you provide to these companies. So thank you very much. Just quickly in regards to the compliances and how this works, some of you know this, you've been doing this a long time, some may not, but compliances give you an opportunity to see what the companies are doing. You know, at the beginning of the tax abatement process, they fill out a form. A lot of times those are estimates because they have to file those forms before they make the investments, before they build the building, before they purchase the equipment. So a lot of time it's estimates. You'll see the capital investments being an estimate as well as job creation. So the compliances gives you an opportunity to look at and see where they're at in regards to their project. But one thing to keep in mind, a few things to keep in mind, compliances, they have the length of the abatement to be able to make their job creation as well as their investment. Also, a lot of times, since they are estimates, you'll see that on the compliances, the investment may be higher, the actual investment may be lower. It depends on when they're actually making those investments, whether they get a better deal on that piece of equipment they were buying, or the materials when they're expanding their facility, or they didn't estimate high enough, so you'll see the investment being much higher. But the savings is based on the assessed value and not the actual capital investment that's stated on the document. Another thing to think of in regards to job creation with it being an estimate, we obviously within this community as well nationally, we have a workforce shortage. So even though they may not be right on spot of the job creation, it may not be because they don't have the position there. They just may not have someone filling that position at the time of recording this. So keep that in mind as well. But looking through the compliances, they all look pretty well. Obviously, most of the companies are growing. The economy is growing here in Greater Lafayette, and so they look pretty good. I'm more than happy to go through the entire process, but I don't want to take up your time to do that because you have a lot on your agenda. But I just want to offer, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk with any of you, one-on-one or as a group, however you want to do it. If you want to talk about economic development or workforce development in Greater Lafayette and even in the region, as well as how this entire process works. So at this point, and I'll be here to answer any questions as well as we go through these. But again, thank you for all your support in what you do in helping Greater Lafayette grow.
Thank you, Jody. All right, first up, we have SMT Properties, LLC.
Mr. Chair, do we want to do these individually for the motions or at the end?
Either way.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll move approval of the compliance and benefits statement for real property for SMT Properties LLC.
Good morning, I'm Tom Tallman from SMT. I'm sorry.
it's all right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good morning, I'm Tom Tallman with SMT Properties.
All right. Well, tell us about your report, or where you're at. Looks like
We're down a little bit from last year. Employment is definitely tough around here, and it's everywhere. We've got 3 other locations, and we're finding that struggle at everywhere. We hire mechanics, welders, and just general labor people, and like I said, it's just getting tougher and tougher everywhere. But we are growing and look to continue growing.
very good. Any questions?
So I know that we're not supposed to, like, these are confidential forms, but just so I understand, it looks like you put the total number of employees to the left of the, like, that you put them in a different spot. I'm just trying to understand it in terms of where things are on the form, because there's a spot for actual on the far right, and it looks like you put it to the far left. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get where, so that's your total number of employees currently, and then your estimated from the SB was the 10?
Correct.
Do you have the number of employees retained? Is that the original number?
If I can interrupt, just
Yeah.
to help you know what you can ask and can't ask.
Thank you.
Sure. What's confidential is the amount of their investment, so
Okay.
the cost of the project, assessed value is fair game. The other thing that's confidential is any individual employee's compensation, but compensation in general is permissible.
Awesome. Well, that makes this a lot easier then. Yeah, because I'm just trying to understand the form as it was written. So it's 10 employees, and then with 28 now current employees. So the number of employees retained was 10, I'm assuming?
No,
Okay.
we pretty much retained 28.
Oh, from, I think they're asking from 2013 when you got started. Were there any employees when you got started? Were there those 10 there?
Yeah, we were kind of renting here for a while, and then we retained those 10 and brought those 10 over, and then we've added.
And then 18 more since 2013?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get what the form says.
Okay. Other questions? All right, we have a motion from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilman Underwood, to approve the statement of benefits and real property for SMT Properties LLC. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the compliance with statement of benefits for Allstate Fastener personal property.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilman Basham, to approve the statement of benefits for Allstate Fasteners of Indiana for personal property. Sir. Good morning.
Morning. My name's Tyler D'Angelo. I'm from Allstate Fastener of Indiana. As you can see, we retained all but one of our employees. He actually had left on his own accord, and our additional employees did increase by the additional one to fill that position as well.
Okay. All right, any questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Those opposed, or those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Liquid Spring Partners.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the compliance of statement of benefits for both real and personal property for Liquid Spring Partners LLC and Liquid Spring LLC.
Good morning. My name is Dean.
If I could I think there's two.
There's three.
He read them together.
I think
two.
one's a duplicate.
There's only two.
He put them together.
It's not exactly
No, there are three different ones.
Yeah, there are
three.
three different, yeah.
Okay, I
Well-
think is there an amendment or a correction to the,
I thought it was an
to
addition.
the CF1? I'm sorry, to the, what we got here?
Yeah, there's
The-
only two on
The
the
real
agenda.
property, okay, so the real property, one's dated May 14th and one's dated May 30th.
But the start dates are different. One's in 18 and one's in 15, so.
Okay.
There's an addition.
So, Roland, I just maybe make it clear that it's all three, if that's your intent.
Okay.
Just,
There was only two.
There should be three.
Okay, there are three.
There's two
I
real
would
and one
amend
private.
my motion to include two statements of benefit for real property and one for personal property.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilman Basham, to approve the statements of benefits for Liquid Spring Partners LLC. No, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dean Bartle, President and CEO of Liquid Spring. I'd like to just echo what Jody said in regards to thanking all the council members for their support. Just a few highlights regarding Liquid Spring. Late last year, we expanded our manufacturing facility, basically doubled our space. We've invested well over $2 million in equipment in the past 2 years. We currently have about 75 employees. Our company is continuing to grow, and with your support, we very much appreciate and gives us an opportunity to continue and grow in this community. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
So,
Thank you.
oh wait, hang on. So can you, like, that whole thing of figuring out which one, so just walk me through there were two original abatements and then an addition, and that's when you
Correct.
did your new space that you were just talking about, right?
Correct. In November of 18, we doubled our space. We actually moved into our
Okay.
addition, if you will, and that's what I think the third one is for.
Okay,
Yes, apparently.
okay.
All right.
So the number of employees retained is different on each form. And we were
Because of the
trying to
time
fig-
frame they were filled out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the reason.
For the actuals, though?
Yeah, because those are the ones that are slightly different so the first two have 16 employees and the last one has 44. So those are different time periods?
Different time periods, our employment fluctuates, if you will, based on time. And we've continued to add, if you will. I think you'll see that in the forms as time's worn out. Any other questions, comments?
All right, we have a motion on the floor. If there are no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the compliance with statement of benefits for real and personal property for Vestalpine Rotec Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilman Underwood to approve the statements of benefits for Voestalpine Rotec. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Will Brunner. I'm with Voestalpine Rotec. I'm the financial controller. I've been there for about a month, so
Welcome.
hopefully I can help you answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions on these forms? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And American Fiber Tech.
I'm again making sure that we have the forms to match here. I believe we have 2 real and 2 personal property before I make the motion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yep. Mr. Chair, I move approval of the compliance with statement of benefits forms, 2 for real property and 2 for personal property for American Fiber Tech Corporation.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilman Basham, to approve the statements of benefits for American Fiber Tech Corporation. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. My name is Jason Rainey. I'm the corporate controller for American Fiber Tech. We do business as industrial pallet, so we're on the south piece of Tippecanoe County right there, just north of 28. I wanted to echo the same sentiments. We appreciate the abatements that you've granted us in the past, and they've certainly helped us expand. We've got 2 sets here. The first ones are from 2011. That was a project we were doing right around the time we had a fire down there too. We expanded and built a new building and used those abatements to help get that created. Second set you're seeing in 2016-17 time period. We added additional finished goods storage onto our new pallet facility to allow us to start storing more pallets in for sale. So, main issue we're having still is with the employment shortage. We have a hard time getting general laborers. I think we're still ahead of our estimated labor count, but we could add 20 people tomorrow if we had them out there and increase sales based on that. But, any questions?
When we originally approved this, you mentioned New Pal. I think you had that facility in southern Indiana. I thought it was in Mitchell.
We actually have 4 facilities.
Okay.
We've got one in Mitchell, Indiana, which is a sawmill. That's southern Indiana. We've got a facility in Remington that does custom pallets. And then we've got a facility in Greencastle, Pennsylvania that does recycle pallets. At Clarks Hill, we actually do new pallets, which we get the lumber from the sawmill, and then we do recycle out of there also. So we do both those pieces. And then we've got mulch that we sell. So any of the scrap that we can't use in the pallet, we turn around, turn that into mulch, and sell that generally wholesale.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? This time we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
And for this, if we're going on to the library,
Yeah.
there was a resolution that got to you after the packets were distributed, and that, or, I'm sorry, it's it's a appropriation ordinance, and it's ordinance number 2019-16CL, approving an additional appropriation by the Tippecanoe County Public Library. So if you are going to move forward with that, that'd be the ordinance to move.
I don't know that
That's an extra email.
I think it's, yeah, sent separately.
And it's real short. I can just read it if you want, you know. I have that copy.
You could read it, but
It just says, whereas the Tippecanoe County Public Library has determined that to help fund furnishings, fixtures, and equipment for the new branch facility the library will build at 4200 South 18th Street, Lafayette, Indiana, it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriated in TCPL's annual budget. And whereas pursuant to IC 6 1.117 20.3 and 6 1.118.5J, Tippecanoe County Council has responsibility to review and, if appropriate, approve such additional appropriations by TCPL. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of Tippecanoe County that for the expenses of the Tippecanoe County Public Library, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of the funds named and for the purposes specified, subject to laws governing the same. And it's $350,000 out of the Tippecanoe County Public Library General Funds Capital Outlays line.
so is this a two-vote?
It's just one.
Just one vote.
Because it's an additional appropriation.
Okay. Is it roll call?
Yeah, I think that's what I had.
No.
So do we need to make a motion?
Yeah,
before
so
we move
it'd
forward?
be appropriate to have a motion to pass ordinance 2019-16CL, and then have, I think Josh is here to come talk
Yeah,
about what
Josh
the
is
project's here. Josh.
Okay, let's start with a motion, and then we'll hear from Mr. Holman.
I can't, yeah, go ahead.
Chair, move approval of resolution ordinance 2019-16-CL.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilwoman Stonebreaker to approve the TCPL appropriation ordinance as requested. Mr. Holman.
Good morning.
Morning.
So thank you all so much for your time today. Appreciate you allowing me to be on your agenda and allowing the business of the Tippecanoe County Public Library to be on the agenda as well. We appreciate the past support of the County Council. Y'all have supported various things that have been brought before you prior to today. And today I stand before you because members of my Board of Trustees were unable to be here. As you are very well aware, most likely we are building another branch. The location of that branch is at 4200 South 18th Street. If you know We Are Rich School, the turnabout, the roundabout, just before We Are Rich School, the property just north of that is the property where this building will stand. This will be our third branch location in 14 years, so the library is continuing to expand. We think that's good for our customer base, it's good for the county, it's good for the quality of life in this particular area. The primary reason that we stand before you is because we projected the cost of this building to be $3.9 million. $3.9 million is up from the $3.2 million for the branch that we opened, the Wyandotte branch, in 2016. Though we projected 3.9, the actual bid of construction cost only came in at $4.7 million. So we're off because we issued a $4.5 million bond. A $4.5 million bond was meant to cover the construction costs and the furnishings, fixtures, and equipment and collection, materials collection for this building. Therefore, we have a gap in our funding, and we're looking for ways to fill that gap. Because the County Council is the fiscal body by law, designated by the state legislature, we need to bring an additional appropriation before the County Council. The additional appropriation, as your attorney has indicated, is strictly from monies associated with the library. Has nothing to do with county revenue, has nothing to do with liability on the part of the county. It's Tippecanoe County Public Library operating balance, a already approved tax rate that this $350,000 would come from. We're trying to make up a gap of about $500,000. This is a portion of that gap. The other portion, $150,000 to $200,000, will be raised through local fundraising. such as the Friends of the Library, grants from the Community Foundation, as well as some corporate sponsors that we believe that we can get to support the library. So we believe that the Board of Trustees, they've been good stewards in terms of building the branches. We have a very small debt. The only debt that we owe right now is for the Wyandotte branch, our branch that opened in 2016, and the debt that we just incurred for this $4.5 million bond. Again, we want to thank you for your consideration. We have copies of the site plan per chance you need to and would like to just see how the building will lay out on the site that's been approved. I'd be glad to hand those out to the County Council, as well as field any questions that you may have for this activity.
I think those would be nice, thank you.
By the chair, some of the things to go.
Anyone have any questions for Josh?
So specifically, we're the fiscal body for this resolution because there are no elected officials on the board for the TCPL, correct? That's why it's coming
Correct
here?
from the sense that the Tippecanoe County Public Library Board is an appointed board only, by which the County Council also has an appointment, as well as the County Commissioners, yes. And so the state legislature has deemed, since it is an appointed board, that this type of activity needs to come in front of an elected body. Yes, thank you.
And my second question is, will this count towards my summer reading hours if I appropriate this?
I guess if we have you spend a couple of minutes on the document that I just handed to you, we can say you read it. Speaking of the document, yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, what impact does this have to your general fund balance, capital outlay balance, and how does that compare to what you've seen historically?
So in terms of our capital outlay balance, we set aside X amount of money, actually only about 25% of the amount that we're asking for today or that we're seeking to add to this project. It will not impact this fiscal year. It may impact next fiscal year, but we have to deal with getting the branch built and getting it opened. And so we acquired the entire $4.7 million to build the branch, and now we're just talking about furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. I do not anticipate, because we spend $60,000 to $80,000 on capital outlay by way of furniture each year, I don't expect it to affect 2020 budget. Did they answer your question?
So does this deplete the balance in capital outlay, or you will have a remaining balance if we appropriate this $350?
We will have a remaining balance.
And part of your rate, annual rate each year replenishes this line item?
No, I want to say no, Roland, because even though we are designating this as a capital outlay, just like the county council's budget, you have four main categories: personnel, supplies, services and other charges, and capital outlay. This is just part of category 4, capital outlay, of our operating or general fund budget. And so that amount that I mentioned for furniture is just a part of that capital outlay budget.
Right, so your annual funding is funding those four line items.
Yes.
This being one, so it's replenished in some form as per your designation. And then finally, did you consider reducing the cost of the project through design changes?
We actually reduced through some design changes. We reduced the cost of the project by only about $110,000. Valued engineering is what we went through, and it affected various parts of the project. However, this particular building has worked well for us as a public library. We're using the same design, same layout. We have less staff in this building than we had in our other branch over in Ivy Tech's campus, and we're able to operate by way of the cost of the building and the cost of staff and the cost of the collection very efficiently. And so we did not want to alter the design of the building.
Thank you.
There's an additional cost to this particular building. We are building a retention pond, which we did not have to do with any of the other buildings, and that excavating cost increased the construction cost by almost $400,000. It's a part of construction that's happening in this county. for every construction project that's going on. They are all coming in over bid, as the news reported last week with the mayor and Columbian Park. So we thank you so much for your consideration. This document that I gave to you, if you can read the writing to the far right that says Snyder, you're looking at the property from the east. And so parallel to the east side is 18th Street. So the parking lot that you see is parallel to 18th Street. You see a curb cut at the south of the building. That curb cut is not exactly across from We Are Ridge Elementary, but it will allow access from County Road 430 into the property as well. And then the building sits facing the east with a canopy, a drive-under canopy, some additional parking, employee parking to the north.
Since you're coming to us asking for more money, to appropriate this money, who approved the project originally? Was that the county council, or did we do this?
No. No, the library board
approved the original project?
Yes, and the cost for it, and the library's budget, et cetera. Yes.
But then, I'm just trying to understand, it's the law, I'm assuming, that you need to come to us to get the extra additional funding.
The library board does not have the authority to increase the budget once it has been approved.
Okay.
The county council does, and that's by way of the Indiana code that Doug has referenced in the resolution.
Then they have review over your budget each year too, right?
The state legislature has gone back and forth with that. So I don't want to answer for them. I will, yes.
There was a time that we did,
Yes.
along with the townships.
Okay.
And that's not the case now.
All right.
It may become the case again.
Yeah.
On your schematic,
Yes, sir.
was this a PUD?
I'm sorry.
Was this a PUD, Planned Urban Development, or I see no boulevard trees, and I see no retention pond.
This was,
I see no boulevard.
I understand. This was the initial site design that was approved by my board with Snyder by way of civil engineering and that type of thing. The official documents that are on file with the city of Lafayette does have the pond. And Mr. Basham, if you look to the north of this property, where that straight line is, that retention pond is just about there on that side. So that first straight line down from the north of the property, that's where that is. If you remember, we came before you by way of the Area Plan Commission to have 10 acres zoned for this building. But the library owns all of the property that's sitting right there in that corner of that roundabout.
All right, other questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve ordinance 2019-16-CL. This will be a roll call vote. Bob?
Metzger,
Yes.
Underwood,
Aye.
Basham,
Aye.
Dullum,
Aye.
Stonebreaker,
Aye.
Winger.
Aye.
The ordinance 2019-16 CL passes 6-0.
Again, we thank you so much for your support and consideration of the matter.
Thank you, Josh. All right, next is the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled or adjusted on today's consent agenda? You do have a revised copy of the minutes. It was just a name change on a question from one of us that had the wrong name on the second page. So that's the only change from what was in the original packet. So at this time, if there's nothing to pull, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Underwood, seconded by Councilman Basham, to approve the consent agenda as submitted with the amended minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. First up is Circuit Court.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the Fund 9631 grant appropriation for Circuit Court as presented.
I second the motion.
We have a motion from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilwoman Dullum, to approve the Fund 9631 grant appropriation as requested for Circuit Court.
I don't believe anybody is here from Circuit, but the confirmation letter of the grant is in the packet, and I don't know if Sharon has anything else to offer, but we do recommend approval.
Any questions from anyone? All right, we have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Superior 6.
I don't believe anybody from 6 could come over this morning. Is anybody here from 6 that I don't see? Judge Morrissey's in court and Charlotte is out today, so I would recommend we table this till next month. He reported that we approved $20,000 out of a $25,000 request, I believe 2 months ago. Charlotte indicated at the time they knew they had some more bills coming in. But given the fact that they indicated these may be from 2017, 2018 yet, I'd like us to get a little bit better handle on what we might be seeing for the rest of the year before we move ahead. And if these bills are that old and we wait another month for payment, I would think we would be okay.
There hasn't been a motion yet, has there?
No.
No.
Okay, so you don't need to do anything. You can just move on to the next agenda item.
Okay.
Well, if we table it, we don't have to re-advertise it. We can just put it
okay.
back on the agenda if
So-
we let
okay, that's
it
a good
die.
point.
So I
So
move that
you
we
need-
table the
Well, you need to make a
appropriation.
motion to approve the appropriation first.
And then
you can
table.
the motion.
Okay. I move that we approve the appropriation request for Superior Court 6 as presented.
And I second that.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilwoman Dullum to approve.
Now you need a motion to table.
And now I move that we table said motion.
I second that.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes, thank you.
And that was, your motion was for next month.
Correct.
All right, so we have a motion to table from Councilman Winger and Councilwoman Dullum. Those in favor of the motion to table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is tabled until next month. Superior 3.
Mr. President, I move to approve the Superior Court 3 General Fund appropriation for $3,000 for travel and training as presented.
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Stonebreaker, seconded by Councilman Underwood to approve the general fund appropriation for $3,000 for Superior Court 3.
And Judge Graham showed up before this meeting started, but had to get to court, so she wasn't here to be here. I don't know if there's anyone else from Superior Court 3 here. But this is a travel and training reimbursable grant where they appropriate the amount, then whatever they don't use, it gets reimbursed. Whatever is not reimbursed gets put back into the general fund.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Public Defender.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the appropriation request for Public Defender User Fees Fund 1200 as presented.
Good morning.
Second.
Yeah. Oh, second. I second that.
We have a motion from Councilman Winger, seconded by Councilwoman Dullum, to approve the PD User Fund 1200 appropriation. Amy.
This is just basically our professional service account. It is money that's collected when the courts order clients to pay a part of the representation. It's called a public defender fee, and it's usually between $50 and $200, depending on the case. So we're asking to use some of that money for that, which is primarily what we use that money for.